I've been doing magic professionally since I was 16 years old. I'm 23 now. I know I look slightly older. I get that a lot. So I've been doing magic professionally for the last 7 years. I started learning when I was 11, so I've been learning for the last 12 years. Basically, I lived more of my life doing magic than not doing it. But that's not where my life starts. My life starts with my first memory. And my first memory is of when I was 3 years old. I was born in Bombay. My family moved to Delhi when we were 3. And my father used to work, my mother used to work. I have an elder brother who was in school. And my nursery KG when I was 3 used to end by obviously 11:30. And I used to spend the day with my dada and my dadi. And one of my first memories is this. My grandfather, who'd come to India after partition, he used to be in Pakistan. I'm Sikh, so he came to India after the partition. So he spoke in a very weird mixture of Urdu and Punjabi. And one of my first memories is him looking at me and saying, "Putter, zindagi mein kaam karo, to aisa karo कि काम को खुशी हो कि तुमने उसे किया." I've heard this a number of times after that. I've heard this from famous poets and things like that. But my grandfather saying it to me was my first memory. And that is literally my first memory. I don't remember any of my life before that. And that's been stuck with me ever since I remember. That's been with me ever since I can remember anything to do with anything. And my grandfather always wanted me to be a performer. He always wanted me to be on stage. He made me sing, he made me dance. When I was 3, there was this movie called Mora, which had Akshay Kumar dance in this song called Tu Cheez Badiya Mast Mast. So my grandfather took out these sort of curtain rings, tied them to my ear, made them look like earrings, tied a little turban, looking like Akshay Kumar, wearing these shady shades, jumping off the sofa, pretending it's a stage, things like that. So I used to do that because my grandfather wanted me to do that. And I didn't get the point of it, I was just having fun doing it. And I tried my hand at a lot of things. I used to play cricket for my school team, which I think every man or boy in India has done at some level. I also used to play football for my school team. Football in my school was big, I'm from the Mothers International School. And what happened was, one fine day while playing football, I hurt my back really, really bad. I was injured and my doctor said that I can never play football again. That was genuinely one of the saddest days of my life because I loved football. Alongside, while football and cricket was happening, I also used to play a lot of instruments. I used to play the keyboard, flute, tabla, guitar, harmonium, mouth organ, violin, you name it. I picked up an instrument and I started playing it. But I never stuck on to anything. I was the sort of person who'll try something, get rid of it, try something, get rid of it, and things like that. When I was 11, still in love with football, still in love with music, I'd gone for a summer camp to this place, Tirthan, which is somewhere close to Kullu Manali. I met a magician there, and he taught me a couple of tricks. And I was fascinated. I knew that moment that this is the most beautiful art form I've ever come across. I went home, I showed them to my family, my friends, over and over and over again, the same 2 tricks that I picked up on, till everyone knew how they were done. And then I started reading up more in magic, started reading more things here and there, and I realized magic is the most pathetic art form that you can be a part of. At some level, every kid at some point in time has loved the idea of magic. They've loved the idea that something happens which you can't explain. All of us have been to these birthday parties when we were young, where there was a magician and we were fascinated. As I grew old, the idea of magic for me was cutting girls in half, taking rabbits out of hats, making a rose appear, having cheesy background music with bikini-clad girls dancing around. That was my idea of magic, which could be the idea of magic for all of you as well. But when I started with magic, once I started reading up on magic after the summer camp, I started reading up on card tricks. There was this David Blaine wave that had happened around the world. I started doing the things that David Blaine did. I started picking up on things here and there and started performing them. And then the first time I got to be on stage, I still remember the date, was 30th of January 2007, 8 years ago now almost. So I've been long way here, sure, I didn't know that. So yeah, 30th of January 2007, I was in 10th grade and in my school farewell, I was the first kid in the history of Mothers International to be performing at a school farewell and not be in 11th grade. So I was in 10th and everybody in my school knew that I did magic and they asked me to perform on stage. So I went up, I was supposed to do a 3.5 minute act. I went on stage and I didn't realize I had stage fright before I went on. I went up, I can feel 250 people looking at me, I can feel those 500 eyeballs staring at me of my seniors and my teachers, because nobody was from my batch, everyone is 11th, 12th, and all the teachers just looking up at me. I walk up looking down at my shoes, slightly shaking like this, look up, and in my head I said, holy fuck. Because everyone's just staring and everyone has this expectation that something's going to happen. I was supposed to do a 3.5 minute act. I was on stage for 10 minutes because I spent 7.5 minutes shaking. I had no idea what to do. But the ending of that sort of 10-minute act was this person comes on stage, he thinks of a playing card. I figure out what playing card he's thinking of. And then I ask him to open his wallet. He opens his wallet and he finds there's a playing card inside of it. And he took it out, he looked at it, and it was the card that he was thinking of. He moved back. And because of him moving back, of that scared expression, the entire audience sort of exploded with laughter and sort of applause and all of that. And I felt like the ground had opened up and swallowed me at that moment, because that moment, that applause from around the audience, I was like, this is all I want to do for the rest of my life. Next 3 days, I was a miniature celebrity in school. I walked in school and everybody, oh, you're the magician. All the teachers were like, oh, you were brilliant on the farewell. And I was flying. Literally flying. I thought, this is absolutely brilliant. Till the 3rd of February, I was picked up, thrown back to the ground in my parent-teacher meeting. We walk into the parent-teacher meeting. My pre-board result was due. We opened the report card. I had 31.8% in my 10th pre-boards. I was the first student in the history of Mothers International to not pass his pre-boards. So from the first student in 10th grade to perform at farewell to the first student to get 31.8% in pre-boards. And from people coming up to me saying, oh, you're the magician, people started coming up to me saying, oh, you're the one who flunked the pre-boards. So that happened, and the school was like, our school has a certain reputation, we can't let you give the boards. Because we have a 100% pass record for ever since the school was formed and things like that, we won't let you give the boards. And my mother and my father went and pleaded, please let him give the board, blah, blah, blah. I went to my mom and said, "Make me boards, kya faida hai?" I didn't see the point of it, and that kept happening again and again and again. 7th of February, I was online just searching random things, and I bumped across this sort of article on magic by a guy called Wayne Houchin, who used to make tricks for David Blaine. And he was lecturing in Boston in November of that year. And I wanted to attend that. I really wanted to attend that. I knew if I go to my dad and said that I want to go there, knowing my dad, Sadar that he is, he'd probably beat me to death. But he said, I hadn't even mentioned it to him. He said, get 80% in your boards. You go anywhere in the world. Anywhere that you want. Somehow, we convinced the school to let me give the boards. My dad thought 80% nahi se aa jayenge, pure saal to 30 saal se aaye, which was true. Even I didn't think I'd be able to get those. You know how when your board results about to come out, I'm sure all of you went through this. You're in bed in the middle of the night, shitting your pants because the results out the next day. Everyone's awake, you're talking to your friends, holy shit, what's going to happen? I was sleeping. Generally, I could care less. I was up till like 1:30 at night. Result was due at 8:30 in the morning. I slept after that. 10 o'clock, my mom wakes me up, saying, "Tanmu result aa gaya." And then we went online. We checked the result. We totaled it. I had 80.1%. In social studies in 10th, I flunked first term, second term, all tests, all assignment, pre-board, re-pre-board, re-pre-board. In the boards, I got 94 in SST. I have no idea how. So that happened. I'm pretty sure there was some sort of an illusion in my marks as well. The magic illusion, it's sort of what it means, intellectual audience. I got 80.1% in my boards, and I ended up winning that trip to the US, and I ended up seeing Wayne Houchin. And that trip literally changed my life. When I went to that lecture by Wayne Houchin, and there were 100 magicians there, 10 years old to 70 years old, and everyone was doing the same tricks that I was doing. Which is when I realized that even if I do magic, I'd be special to friends around me. For magicians, I'd just be another magician pulling card tricks. And I knew people are fascinated by magic because I'd seen people 60 years old wanting me to perform for them when I was 16. I had seen that. But the one thing I realized that people are fascinated by more than anything else is themselves. We are the center of our universe. We're self-obsessed, we're self-absorbed. We like to say that we think about other people, fuck you, we don't. We are very selfish. We think we care about our families and friends and we put them ahead of our needs, we don't. We are very, very selfish. All of us say that we are unique, we are different, which is the most common trait about people. Nobody would go out and say, oh, I'm like everybody else. Everybody will go out and say, I'm unique. Everybody says, I'm unpredictable, which is the most predictable trait about people. Nobody says I'm predictable. I base my act on that from there, thinking that people are very, very similar. People are so similar that you can, all of them have similar expressions also, similar moods in certain situations, and you can pick up on them. So I started mixing magic with this sort of psychology and human behavior. And I came up with a new branch of magic. And I started doing that, and I performed and I performed and performed, not caring where I was performing, who I was performing for. I live in Surajkund, Chamur village, for those of you who know of it. Right behind my house, there was Cabbages, which is now called Vivanta. They used to have birthday parties every week when I was 17. And birthday parties being 1-year-old, 2-year-old birthday parties. That was not my audience whatsoever, I can't handle kids. But that was what they did, and they needed a magician because their theme was Disney. And they wanted a magician to come in and act like a Disney character and perform for kids. I got that job every weekend. I used to dress up in a suit, walk to Cabbages from my house, because it was literally a 5-minute walk, and I went to perform. My parents thought I was doing well, wearing suits every week, going to perform at the age of 17. I reached there, and my parents to this day don't know about this. I reached there and I had to strip down, wear a purple vest, a white dhoti, and a red cap, dress up as Aladdin, and perform for 5 hours every weekend for kids, which I hated. I hated it. I hated the idea of dressing up as Aladdin, fooling my parents by wearing a suit, just before stripping down from my Aladdin clothes, wearing a suit again, going back home so that my parents will find out that I'm wearing an Aladdin suit, almost half naked performing for kids. Even though I hated the idea of it, I loved the idea of performing. It filled me with more joy than anything ever did. And still to this date, it does. I love it so much. Even though 1-year-old, 2-year-old kids and all I was doing was putting toffees out of their ears. It was a beautiful feeling of their expressions. I did get to perform for their parents here and there as well, which I liked doing because that was the kind of audience I wanted to cater to. But I did that, and I used to get 1,000 rupees for 5 hours at the age of 17, and I thought I was robbing the pants of them. I genuinely thought that because I thought 1,000 rupees in a weekend is just fantastic. I was earning 4,000 rupees a month at the age of 17, and I thought that's brilliant. I didn't have any bills to worry about or anything of that sort. And I continued doing that, and I started getting corporate shows here and there. I started performing for Philips, I started performing for a few companies here and there. A friend of mine made a Facebook page, Karan Singh Magic. So he made that Facebook page, which started getting me more and more shows. I started doing a lot of corporate gigs here and there. And I used to start charging more and more money, obviously, from there. It reached a point when I was 18 and a half, 19, and I started earning about 5,000 for a show for about a 1-hour act, and I thought that was brilliant. I never did it for money, I still don't, but at that time, it got to my head that I'm earning money. When you're 18, 19, and you start earning money, it does get to your head. And it got to my head that I'm earning money at the age of 19, 5,000 for an hour. And one day I had a meeting with this company called the Boston Consulting Group. A family friend used to work there in HR, and he said, we have an event coming up, I want you to perform because I think you'll do a good job of it. I thought, okay. I go for the meeting. This particular family friend wasn't there. There were a couple of other HR managers. And I speak to them and said, okay, what would be the logistics like? What would you charge for this? And I thought I'd do a 40-minute act this time. And I went all arrogant and I said, I'll charge 5,000 for 40 minutes. And I thought, I'm so cool. And they said, okay. And they agreed. And I thought, that's brilliant. I get home, my family friend, Nikhil Bhaiya, calls me. And I start talking to him. And he gave me the best piece of advice I've ever gotten, ever. He asked me, how much did you ask for? I said, 5,000. He said this, and to this date, I remember, pardon my language. He said, "Chutiyo." I said, I'm sorry, I'll charge less. He said, yeah, we'll see about that. That ended. I got that advice of "Tum chutiyo," did the show, got my check. It was a little envelope. I opened it. I did a 20. By the end of it, I was supposed to do a 25-minute act because they planned another session. I did a 25-minute act. I opened the check. I looked inside. I got 25,000 rupees for that. So in my head, I'd earned 1,000 rupees a minute. And I was like, holy shit, that's brilliant. And I went and hugged Nikhil Bhaiya. And he said, never undersell yourself. Never, ever, ever undersell yourself. If you've been doing magic for a year, go and tell people you've been doing it for 10 years. They don't know. They don't know about your life. Whatever I'm saying right now is the truth, just by the way, but still, never undersell. Never undersell yourself. Be honest, but never undersell yourself. Never say I'll charge this much and I'll be happy to do it. I'll come on my own. I don't need transport. Blah blah blah. I still don't act pricey, but still, never undersell yourself. Know your role, know your value, know that this event can't happen without you. And after that brilliant piece of advice, and I started earning more money just doing shows here and there, started earning more and more money, and got to my head that I'm earning money. One of my biggest regrets was that my grandfather had died before I got any show. So he never really got to see me perform, but my grandmother was still with me, and both of them had been a big influence on me. And that continued to happen. And on the 23rd of June 2012, I did my first big show. It was called Saltus. I did it in City Fort Auditorium. There are 4 auditoriums in City Fort. The second biggest one, there are 400 seaters. And I printed 200 tickets because I thought that's the amount I'll be able to sell. On the 18th of June, we had inquiries for, I still remember, 473 tickets. So by the end of it, the show was sold out. People were sitting on steps for that show. I had no idea how that happened. And I thought, it's just brilliant because it was my baby then. I built a show that I wanted to do. I kept an age restriction to it. Kids below the age of 13 not allowed. Because that's the kind of act. And people coming to see magic at the end of it, paying money to see magic, and none of them being below 13. And I thought that's brilliant. And that still got to my head. After that, I'm sitting in my grandmother's room having tea in the evening. I got a call from an NGO asking me to do a show. And I said, no, I don't perform for free. And I hung up. My dadi looks at me and she says, Karan, मुझे समझ नहीं आता कि तू करता क्या है life में. I don't know what you do for a living. Even when she died, she didn't know what I do for a living. मुझे नहीं समझ आता कि तू क्या करता है. पर जिंदगी में काम को कभी ना नहीं करना चाहिए. एक दिन आएगा जब काम नहीं मिलेगा, तब बहुत बुरा लगेगा. Back then, as rude as this would sound, I thought, old woman doesn't know what she's saying. Genuinely, I thought that, as dark as that might be. But I realized that it is sort of true. Because right after June starts a period in India, from July through to October, where there are no corporate things that happen, there are no festivities that happen, so nobody wants entertainment. So right after this high of doing so many shows, right after this sort of doing this sellout show at City Fort Auditorium, for 4 months I didn't do a single show. And I was sad, I was depressed, I had no work. And I took my grandmother's advice to heart. And never say no to work. And from then on, I never said no to work. I'll perform whenever, wherever, if I'm free on that particular date, if I don't already have a show or some other commitments, I will perform. I won't care if I get 70,000, a lakh, 1,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees. I won't even mind doing it for free. I prefer if you pay me, but still, I won't mind doing it for free if it's a good audience, if it's the kind of audience that I would like. Never say no to work. And in a very strange sort of poetic justice sort of way, 19th of September last year, 2014, my grandmother died at 1:30 p.m., literally in my hands. She woke up, she said, Karan, sit next to me, let me hold your hand. And she's doing that, she had an asthmatic attack, she had a heart attack, and she literally died in my hands at 1:30 p.m. We went to the funeral, we did all of that. I had a show at 8:30 p.m. that evening, which I committed to 3 weeks ago. And my parents were like, you shouldn't do the show, you're not in the right frame of mind, blah, blah, blah. But I thought, my grandmother had said, never say no to work. Whatever the circumstances may be, if you've committed to it, never say no to work. I went and performed the evening my grandmother had died. 200 people gave me a standing ovation at the end of it. And that still remains one of the most beautiful memories that I've had. Thank you. Since then, since the age of 16 till now, last 7 years have, for me, quite literally been undeservingly beautiful.